It's Sunday, August 4th, 2024, and things are starting to spin in the sky. And you know what that means. I make YouTube videos about it, all right? And we've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of spinny things going on over the next couple of days. And honestly, this is about as active of a weather pattern as we've had in quite some time. And it all starts with this spinny thing right here, moving up close to Florida. A lot of you guys, if you live in Florida, you already know what I'm talking about. It's been raining a lot. It's only going to get worse before things get better. We've got Tropical Storm Debby. Here's an up close and personal look at Tropical Storm Debby as I'm filming this video. Lots of convection popping up around that center of circulation. We call these hot towers. We don't see those towers wrapping around the low pressure in a way that would, indicate that we're having rapid intensification or anything like that. But I do want you to look at the pattern here. If you take a close look at the clouds, especially if you look at the clouds near the surface, notice how a lot of those clouds are, rotating counterclockwise as you would expect with a low pressure center in the northern hemisphere, right? But if you take a look at the top layer of clouds, which is actually what's most visible to us here on this satellite imagery, everything is rotating kind of the opposite way. And that fanning out motion is actually a really good sign that this hurricane is in a very favorable and healthy environment for growth. The thing that this storm doesn't have going for it is time, okay? It's got very warm surface waters. It's got ocean heat content to deal with. It's got, everything going for it, except for the fact that it's going to be making landfall very soon. So if it's going to intensify, it's not going to have much time to do so. But yeah, kind of a textbook look at a tropical storm and the way that it's supposed to exhaust in an environment with very little wind shear. Okay, so this is the latest official information on Tropical Storm Debby. We've got winds around 60 miles per hour. Okay, so this is a higher end tropical storm now. The next couple of updates will probably see this become a hurricane. Winds are gusting up there around 63, 65 miles per hour. We're almost below 1,000 millibars with our surface low pressure, and it's moving northwest at 13 miles per hour. We do expect this to become a Category 1 hurricane, likely sometime early tomorrow morning. It's going to make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane, maybe a higher end Category 1 hurricane a little bit after that, likely sometime after noon on Monday. And then if you pay attention to the cone of uncertainty here, the big yellow area, notice how it kind of really fattens out. That's not indicating the area of impact. That's indicating the margin of error as to where the center of this storm could possibly go. And the reason it's so big is because the storm's going to basically stall out, and it has the opportunity to kind of meander around the southeastern U.S. for quite some time, and it could end up anywhere in that yellow cone over the next several days. And with that being said, that's actually going to be the main talking point behind Debby. Of course, we are worried about the storm surge and the winds. We're going to have a large area impacted by tropical storm to hurricane force winds in the Big Bend area of Florida. This is a very similar area that got hit last year with Hurricane Debby. Okay, y'all get ready for that. There's going to be some winds. There's going to be a hurricane. Okay, but you guys in Florida, you know that a Category 1 hurricane, especially with this kind of path, the main story is not going to be the winds. This slow-moving tropical system is going to cause a disaster, potentially of epic proportions in terms of flash flooding. Unfortunately, I'm thinking it's going to take place a little bit more up there towards South Carolina, Georgia, maybe up towards North Carolina, some of the same places that were hit really hard in 2015. Up to 30 inches of rainfall in a very short period of time is going to be possible here with, over a foot of rain possible all the way down into the Big Bend area and all the way up into, once again, North Carolina. A rare high risk of flash flooding has been issued, specifically on the day 3 outlook. 3 days from now, that's when we expect it to be the worst as far as the heavy rainfall goes. But we've got a moderate risk that also goes back towards Tallahassee, goes all the way down towards Tampa, almost gets up there to Augusta, Georgia. And I think this will be expanded to include the Outer Banks as well and farther up into North Carolina, because this is going to be a slow moving system, and everybody that has to deal with it for any amount of time is going to be dealing with high precipitable water values and just a ton of rain. Okay, so here's what the radar could look like over the next 24 hours or so. There's Tropical Storm, potentially Hurricane Debby churning to the west of Florida there. Things are really going to start picking up with that on radar, I think, likely this evening, 9-10 p.m. tonight. It's going to start looking like a hurricane on radar. And also some of the outer bands here will start causing problems along the western panhandle and in the Big Bend region. Some of those problems might be tornadic in nature, as you know, it's not very uncommon to see some, rotating supercells embedded in these outer bands. That'll be a problem all night tonight into the early morning hours tomorrow. The HRRR here is not the best model to look at for, predicting hurricanes, but it is showing a landfall a little bit earlier than a lot of other models, maybe as early as 6 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. So the sooner this makes landfall, the less likely it is that it's going to intensify greatly. So let's root for that, I guess. But one thing's for certain, there's going to be an absolutely astonishing amount of rain falling during this time period. We're also going to continue to see a pretty significant tornado threat, I think, across the peninsula of Florida as we go through the day on Monday. And then, of course, that swirling tropical system is going to continue to feed off of moisture from the Atlantic Ocean and just dump it onto Georgia and South Carolina as we go into Tuesday. Also, the reason I'm showing you this kind of zoomed out view of the radar here is because watch up north, we're going to have several rounds of severe weather going on up here at the same time. We've got a slight risk of severe weather today, mostly associated with Tropical Storm Debby down there and those outer bands leading to some supercells. There's going to be plenty of low-level shear out here, so I would not be surprised at all to see multiple tornado warnings today into tonight and a couple of tornadoes as well. The rest of the marginal risk areas, we're talking about a slight chance of some wind and some hail. Once again, the main threat's going to be down there in Florida, and the same can be said for tomorrow, but tomorrow there's actually a little bit more of a significant threat of severe weather up north as well. So from Chicago back up towards southern portions of Minnesota and then over into Pennsylvania, New York, well into New England, I think we're going to have a pretty significant damaging wind event, while at the same time we have an even more significant tornado threat associated with Tropical Storm Debby going on in the panhandle of Florida up into southeastern Georgia. And this will also be when we are dealing with some of the prolific flooding that's going to be happening down here as well. So tomorrow, Monday, is going to be a really active day in terms of severe weather. So make sure you're tuned in. I'm pretty sure we will be live for most of the day tomorrow, and we will cover all of this, even though the main focus is obviously going to be Hurricane Debby. And I don't think we've gotten a good update on the day 3 yet, but I think that this will be expanded. I think this will be upgraded. We'll probably see another slight risk for the New York City area back towards Ohio. And then I think the marginal risk and maybe even a new slight risk will extend well into South Carolina and North Carolina if the track of the storm continues to look like it's going to be the way that it looks like right now. The only reason we don't see higher storm probabilities for the day 3 right now in the southeast is because of the lack of confidence in the exact track of the storm. Going even farther into the future, this is what the Euro model shows. Look at all that moisture. Look at all that rain just slowly but surely dumping itself onto South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. The Euro shows this thing literally parking itself over Savannah, Georgia for almost an entire day. It goes on a little stroll up there towards Myrtle Beach. It visits the beach, okay? It comes onto land for a short period of time, and then it just meanders up there towards the Delmarva area. This is insane. This is a wild path. It's a realistic path now. This is actually what the storm could look like. It could take an entire week for this incredibly strong storm with lots of moisture to work from southeastern Georgia to northern portions of North Carolina. And once again, in the meantime, it's going to absolutely drench everyone in between. And of course, that's why over the next 7 days, the people who are expecting the most rainfall are obviously on the East Coast. Once again, well over a foot of rain possible for everybody in the darker oranges and brown there. Hot spot looks to be Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina, but I wouldn't be surprised to see significant flooding problems in the Outer Banks of, North Carolina. Obviously, a little bit farther inland too, but I'm just kind of using the Outer Banks as a generalization of the area that I'm talking about. Maybe even as far back as in towards Raleigh, up there towards Richmond, even up into Maryland, New Jersey, New York City. You guys could deal with some flooding from this. We just don't know exactly what's going to happen with this thing beyond a couple of days because it could, meander a little bit longer than what it looks like right now. And of course, we are still looking for this cool down to happen. It's not the main story anymore. We're going to have a little bit of a taste of fall. Not really. We're just going to be a little bit below average for, a lot of us in the northern and northeastern U.S. who have been dealing with a lot of heat. So this will be a welcomed change here over the next 6 to 10 days. Things are going to be really cool. I think there's a warm up coming after that, but enjoy this while it lasts. And speaking of enjoying things while they last, I hope you enjoyed our dead period as far as, tropical weather goes because things are lighting up. Obviously, right now we only have one named storm. That's Debby over here in Florida, but this is round 2. This is our next one that we're watching, and then there's a couple of waves coming off of Africa, which will likely also be something that we have to watch as we go into the future. So the tropics are awake now, and we are nowhere near the peak of this season. National Hurricane Center already highlighting this area for a 20 to 30% chance of a new named storm being designated here within the next 7 days. So the Caribbean is on fire. There's nothing stopping a major hurricane from getting going down there. So obviously we are concerned about this. And if this one doesn't do it, we're going to see another X probably over here within the next couple of days. Another opportunity for a hurricane to start coming towards the Caribbean from the main development region. Now, obviously, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. The main focus right now should be on Florida, where we do have tropical storm warnings and hurricane warnings in effect. We've got flood watches in effect as well in the green. I think that's going to massively expand. The whole state of Florida should be under a flood watch. The majority of South Carolina and I think farther into northeastern portions of North Carolina should be included in that flood watch as well. We'll see that expand as time goes on. And since we're here, I'm being told by our marketing director, the lovely Kinsey, to remind you guys that, over on shopryanhall.com, you can save 10% right now on the Tempest weather system. Just use the code Tempest10 at checkout. Lots of you guys love these things. You're asking about them all the time. They're a little expensive, so we try really hard to give you guys discounts from time to time. 10% on that is a lot. It's not easy to do that, but whenever we do it, we sell a lot of these, and you guys have a really good personal home weather station, and that's what it's all about. So thank you for buying these from us. We don't have a sponsor today. I personally love that, but it does help if you guys go to our website and buy things, okay? So yeah, we're going to be live on the channel during landfall tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe with notifications on. I don't really know exactly what time that live stream is going to start. That's why it's important that you have those notifications on, but we will be here for the majority of the day because I also want to cover the tornado threat, and I want to start into the flash flooding threat as well. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe, and hopefully I don't have a cold tomorrow or the flu or whatever I've got, but I've got it right now, so get ready for some sniffles. All right, I'll see you. Goodbye. Whoop.